The Buddha said, I teach only one thing and one thing only, suffering and the end of suffering. And Hanasaro Bhikkhu, or Ajahn Jeff, has said, if you're interested in Buddhism, that implies you're interested in the relationship in your life to suffering, stress, and how to end it, how to be free of it, nirvana, some freedom. And all of Buddhism lies right in between the first word of that sentence to the end, right? This is the core teaching from his perspective. And I would say he got my attention when he said that. I perked up. Really? Okay. Because there are a lot of things you could focus on in Buddhism, right? You could focus on a still mind. You could focus on your meditation practice. You could focus on the koans and millions of things, right? But this is where he says, here it is. This is what the Buddha teaches, one thing only. So the question that we started with at the beginning of the year was, do these Four Noble Truths, and I'll list them in a moment, are they true for you? And if they're true for you, are they relevant? Like, is it meaningful? Is it meaningful when you go to Costco, or you're dealing with your loved ones, or you're in a difficult situation at work, or you're turning on the news, right? Is this body of teachings from the Buddha alive and real? Is it meaningful? And if it is, how so? And that's the intent and purpose of this talk, and all the talks that I've given since January have really been to ask that question. Is it meaningful today? Is it meaningful in our lives as we live it? Is it alive? Is it an alive question? And so just to define what we're talking about is the first noble truth is there is suffering and stress. It exists. And we'll go into that a little deeper. And the second is there's a cause for it, right? What is that cause? And the third noble truth is the cause has an end. There's a solution to this suffering and stress. And the fourth is there is a path, there's a way to the end of suffering. So he outlines it, it just in that way. So that's what we're talking about. And those of you who have heard me give talks before, one of my co-teachers always likes to remind me that if I'm talking about the Four Noble Truths, I have to tell people what they are. Because I famously will go off into a talk on the Four Noble Truths and never say what they are. It's like I forget, to define it. So basically, we all know through our lived experience that it's just not easy to be human. And the first breath we take as humans are filled with dukkha, suffering. It's hard to be born, right? And then we're gasping for air. We're gasping to be held. We're gasping and grasping to be fed, right? So the beginning of our existence has this stress, this need, this want, this dukkha. It's palatable. And it's with us in our consciousness all the time. And it's like the Buddha describes it as the obvious things of what dukkha would be, which is birth, aging, death, pain, distress, despair. Those are the things that come to mind. But he then goes in a little bit more and says, we have to be separated. It happens from the things we want, the things we love, the things we hold dear. They end. There's an impermanence. and that's called an anicca dukkha, that there's always like this lack of complete satisfaction. Anything that we're enjoying that's beautiful, that's rich, that's just yummy and sweet, it ends. It's unstable, shaky. Even what is beautiful has stress in it. I was walking today, and after all the rains, the air was so clear and the sky was so blue, and the smell was so sweet, and it was just lovely to walk by the water and the ocean with my little doggy, right? And go to the best coffee shop on 2nd Street, the one that I think is the best. This, right now, it changes, and get that perfect cup, right? But in it it's conditioned, right? It's going to change. It will end. And it doesn't always go my way. That happiness and joy has conditions that are out of my control. And yet, as humans, we can run after the filling up on the good experience. But the good experience is not always so secure, right? So, our dukkha, our relationship to even what is lovely and what's difficult, is dependent on something else. Things have to come together in order for us to have it right, to have what we want. And so this makes our happiness, right, shaky if we're dependent on things coming together right. So you just think about that. You can just stop right there and breathe a bit. Because when we're in this unconscious mode of being, very often we wake up with this desire for the day to go right. Or else, and then if it's not, we're grumpy, we're disappointed, we're already stressed, and we're blaming ourselves or someone else. I'm right there, right? I just want the day to go right. I want a day that with so many conditions that there's no control over, to go my way. That's pretty normal for my mind when I'm not tuned in a mindful way, right? So, let's see. I've given this talk so many times in variations. I've got pages here. We'll see what happens. So one of the meditation teachers that I sat with in Spirit Rock, Pascal Auclair, he's from Montreal. I don't know if any of you have heard his talks. Really great Dharma teacher. And he said that when he first started to sit in Buddhism and he heard the definition of dukkha and suffering, and that, what we love will fade, what we want we don't always get, what we don't want we get. I think in Zen they'll say, there was a beautiful saying that I love, and that's, flowers bloom, but then they pass, the bloom goes, and weeds grow in your garden, right? And so even gardens have the dukkha, there's dukkha in the fabric of being. And he said when he heard that, what he really understood, he was a young man coming into Buddhism in his 20s, and life hadn't always gone the way that he wanted it to. He didn't get the job he wanted, or that relationship didn't work out, or the apartment in Montreal didn't come the way they needed, or friendships, all these conditions on which we base our happiness. And when he heard that this dukkha is about just being human in a world of many conditions coming together that isn't so personal, it freed him from a lot of the suffering of an identity of a person who's failed. The way he had defined himself in failure. So when we can look at dukkha through that lens of this is the ticket for living, that it's laced with it and we're swimming in it, we can begin to change our relationship to it. And the Four Noble Truths have this liberating factor. It's to have freedom from the suffering that comes from some of the things that we do internally. There's some suffering we're not going to get out of, old age, sickness, death, government news, things like this, nature, some of the things. But this internal experience of how we deal with it, there's a liberating factor in the practice, which is really good. So we talked about like the obvious things of dukkha, and there are not so obvious. Thanissaro Bhikkhu says there are things that are a little, you've got to kind of tune in, go under the microscope and tune in a little bit more. And he calls them, and I won't go into this too much right now, the 5 clinging aggregates. And what that means is there are, what he would say, 5 groups of things that organize the way we put together reality, the way we have and hold the world, right? And the way we hold, and the word is clinging. So this is already talking about this second noble truth, that dukkha, the suffering, is not even the problem or the stress. And you think about what is the dukkha in your life today, but it's the internal process, the internal relationship to it. And it's often been described in Buddhism as thirst, tanha, craving, grasping, and clinging, and how flexible are we around it, or how rigidified are we with it. And this desire to have the world stay comfy in our comfort zone, as we say, keep it the same, and to push away what we don't like. So we're already talking about this craving mind. We're coming into the second noble truth, right? This craving, I want. And sometimes, again, without mindful awareness, the mind can be like a crying baby or a puppy. I want. I need the world to be filled with experience that I want, so I can feel satisfied and I can feel my sense of me. Right? Very normal. And I want to say there is nothing pathological about this, because this is the way we're made up. But when it's very much rigidified and tight without awareness, you can see that the problems start, right? The dukkha increases. So when we go back to his concept of 5 clinging aggregates, the first one would be form, the physical phenomena. And I'm going to say a few things about it, because again, it has to be understood in a way that is practical and meaningful. So those of us, form is what I can touch and what I can see and taste and smell. It's the physicality of things, right? Like I said today, I fulfilled this craving for the perfect cup of coffee, perfect. This place they make the perfect, right? That's form. Yeah, I drink, it's perfect. Oh, so happy. Can't wait to go back again. Never mind, the cup of coffee is out of my budget, really. And excessive, but it's delicious, right? But oh, so happy, so happy. And then the coffee is over. Not so happy, it's done, right? On to the next thing to fill up on, right? But form is also the relationship to the body, like those of us who are in the aging process, right? Form is the relationship to your hips and your knees if you're aging, and your back, right? And what we do with form when we're talking about dukkha and craving is we insert an I in there, an I, me, or mine, And here's where the dukkha is. So if you're aging, your knees, your hips, and your back, and other parts, your memory, it's changing. It's changing, and changing in ways where it's more challenging. And we have to modify and give up things. So the dukkha is in the rigidity of not wanting it to change or be different, of pushing away the unpleasant. Right? That's the rigidity. And the teaching of the Four Noble Truths, this letting go, this releasing, and this non-grasping is going with the flow of the change. But the response to the dukkha of knees, hips, memory, back, whatever it is that's going, eyesight, is one of compassion and care. That we'll take care in a kind and loving way towards these changes, but we don't fight the change. We don't fight, we have to let go of things we can't do that we could do, right? But that the relationship is one of compassion and care. But we're going with the flow of the change and not resisting it, And I think many of you can think about examples of this from your own life, of people who adapt and adjust, and grief is normal and sadness, but to go with the fact that are these knees mine, are these ankles and feet and hips and back, or are they conditions changing? It's form, right? We don't have to cling to an identity, right? To cling to it. Sometimes we will, that's normal. And I like to say remembering is forgetting and forgetting is remembering. That's part of mindfulness. Is one day it's clear like a bell, and the next day we're in a fog, and then it's clear. And this is kind of the process of our practice. But if we go to the next one, we can, and they link together. The next one is feeling tone, which means I want more of the things I like, and I push away against the things that I don't like, right? I like it, I don't like it, sometimes I'm neutral, but there's the give me more and don't give me that. So on my way to my beautiful walk, there was the coffee shop where the coffee's acidy. I don't like the acid flavor, so don't give me that coffee. Give me the other coffee, right? And when there isn't this mindful awareness, we can be like a ping pong ball between paddles of I like, I don't like, I like, I don't like, right? And we set our lives up to avoid, to push away, and to get more, and to get more. And so when you put feeling and form together, it's really interesting. And I'll say a couple of things here. One of the things that have all of you gone on meditation retreat for a couple of days or a week or weeks, right? There's this experience, a lot of people report this. This is a very common experience on a meditation retreat to illustrate feeling and form, like these things, right? So one time I was on a meditation retreat, and I really enjoy meditation retreats. I'm the type that likes going on retreat, because then I get to let go of everything I don't like in life, right? It's a vacation from all the things you have to do. So I'm very excited, very happy to go on retreat and to sit. And I was early on in my retreat life. I was a lot younger, and I had all this hope and expectation for stillness and sitting deeply and quiet, which I really enjoyed and liked. And second day, I get this really bad back pain, like my back hurts, and now it's distracting me from the stillness and the sitting and the concentration. Don't like it at all. And I spend some time on the retreat, a couple of days, doing all sorts of like yoga and stretching and heating pads and a solve, and trying to solve the problem. I'm working the problem, and I'm convinced that if I stretch just the right way and I do that right position, I remember hanging off the bed backwards, stretching my spine. I had this idea that I could break the pain in some way, and no matter what I did, the pain would not go away. It was just there. And so we're on the feeling tone, this aggregate of clinging. So I was clinging to my aversion of the pain, because it wasn't the retreat I wanted. You see, so it becomes a chain of aversion, but you can cling to your aversion, right? I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it, right? It was just went on like that. And then I didn't like the fact that I couldn't change it, right? It was beyond my control. I thought I could twist myself in a pretzel and put some cream on it, I don't know what. And I'm sitting there, and third, fourth day, maybe fifth day, and the mind got very, very still, right? Concentration got quiet. And in that quiet, the mind stopped clinging to the retreat and to the pain and to what I want and I didn't want. The mind just got quiet. It just stopped, right? And what was interesting is that the pain was still there, but it wasn't experienced as pain anymore. It was experienced as phenomena, rising and passing. What is pain? Like, it's little electrical dots in the consciousness of a sensation that actually moves quite a bit. But without the mind clinging to, or defining it, or telling a story about it. And these are all the ways the Buddha says we cling. We name it, we tell a story, we push it away, we try to change it, we would create an I in it, right? These are all the ways we cling. Without that, it was just phenomena. And it wasn't pain, and yet it was still there. This is a very common experience. It's not unusual at all. And what we can learn from that is, why are these Four Noble Truths so noble, interesting and alive? Is that when we, through the practice, and in the retreat, it was sitting and concentration and maybe following the breath and sitting into stillness and not getting your sensory world out there, you're pulling in. Through a practice, we can begin to see what this unbinding and release looks like. I'm not in this moment the mind and the body, it's not naming, it's not telling a story, it's not commenting, it's not having an opinion, it's not projecting in the future, it's not trying to manipulate and change. And that nibbana, it's a little example of nibbana in a way, of freedom that he's talking about. Nibbana means, one definition is putting out the fire, you know? And it's like we're putting out the fire in our busy monkey mind that's chattering and trying to control ourselves and control life, right? So that fire cools, and you begin to see this expanse of freedom beyond a mind, right? And in that moment, the condition of whether there's pain in the back or not does not matter that much. That's kind of the really neat part of this teaching, is he's giving us this map towards freedom and giving us a whole eightfold path to work with the conditions. And he's pointing us to a certain freedom that isn't about life having to be a certain way. It's not waiting for the world to be quite right? Because he's giving us a way to work with what's here. So in a way, I have told you via that little story of how it starts with form, which could be the body, or it could be the cupcake I didn't get when I had the perfect cup of coffee, but would have loved to, right? Craving, you know. And feeling tone, I like this, I don't like it, I don't want it. Like our opinions and our judgments and values, the values sometimes that aren't even ours, that were just collected through the culture or through your genetics, your heredity, your tribe, you know. There's a whole bunch of values and opinions in there that came from your great-great-grandparents in the neighborhood, the kid down the block, or whatever religious institution you are in. And those can be, you know, terrible prejudices and hatred and racism, and all those things, right, are embedded in us. And he says this is what some of the things we cling to without even knowing it. Some of us we cling to patriarchy and we don't know it, right? We cling to classism or racism. We don't know it. We're not fully awake to it. So the Four Noble Truths have this liberating factor of releasing us from what we cling to, but what we are, it's even deeper. It's what we don't even know that we're clinging to it, right? We don't know that we're clinging to it. So last night, I watched a Netflix movie instead of going to see La Mancha. We had this dialogue. And the movie I watched was called Blue Moon. Has anybody watched that movie? Blue Moon. It was pretty good, right? Very good movie. So it was about, I think it takes place in the 40s at Sardis, for the New Yorkers in the room. And it's about this songwriter who wrote Broadway songs and plays and was very successful and is having a glitch in his career. It's going a bit downhill. And he is coming into Sardis. He had just left the musical Oklahoma with an exclamation mark, you know, right? For those of you who watched the film. And his partner, wrote it without him. And Oklahoma, this musical, was going to be a big hit, big hit on Broadway. And you could have a little homework to watch the movie Blue Moon and identify all the ways in which there's clinging and grasping, and extra dukkha, is a good example. But anyway, I'm giving you another way that we have this dukkha and clinging and grasping, because his point of view in the movie, and it was so well written, was that the lyrics and the script was, just not very deep. It was just fluff. And he was suffering over the fact that he turned it down because it wasn't deep enough for him. It wasn't real enough. It wasn't real drama or real talent. It was just a lot of lightweight fluff. And he abhorred the fact that this would be a big hit. Well, the reason why I bring up Blue Moon and this character in the movie is that I have had so much dukkha and suffering over clinging to my idea of how the world should be and how people should be and what a good play is, right? What a good book is, what government should be, what our society should be. These are all views. These views, when we hold on tight, like you're holding on to the steering wheel of a racing car, trying to get this car to go where you want it to go at 100 and whatever miles per hour, right? There's a lot of dukkha in it. The harder we cling, the more we feel we're justified in this view. The more the whole system is going to suffer. And even if the view is right, even if our ideas are correct, this clinging to me as a sense of self that has this point of view, and the aversion when no one else agrees with you, is suffering, it's dukkha. And so when we develop this flexibility and this capacity to roll with it and to differentiate, to have this mindful awareness of knowing the truth of the Four Noble Truths, we can kind of live a little gracefully with the things that are so hard and irritating or disappointing, we really see the truth of the way things are.
Hi, I'm Robert Lurie with Long Beach Meditation. Your gracious generosity makes this programming possible. If you found this video to be of value, please consider making a donation here. And if you'd like to watch more videos like this one, click here. And if you want to stay up to date with Long Beach Meditation, click here to subscribe. Thank you.